What's up, you guys? Thank you for clicking on this video. So as you can tell by the title, we have some interesting info to cover in today's video. Now this comes in via TFP Forever on Instagram, so shout out to you, bro. Thank you for providing this info. So he posted some stories on his Instagram page talking about some pieces of info he got from Evan at MegaCon when he was talking to him. So I'm going to read through these and give you guys my thoughts on everything, as always. So first up here, and I quote, "Things Evan told me at MegaCon. Transit is something they want to make but weren't sure of the size. I said liter and he agreed. SG reissues are a subject that they typically bring up. I mentioned wanting to see Starscream, Jetfire, and Sideswipe and Rodimus. They haven't considered making SG Goldbug and Screamer from Cybertron figures until I mentioned the idea to him on Friday." So let's talk about this first here. With the transit thing, it makes sense that they would probably want to do them in the concept art subline now that they've introduced that. I would be really excited to actually see how they would handle that figure. In terms of him being a leader class, I don't know. He's a big bus former, so I would assume he would be better as a commander. But if they have to fit him into leader, I guess it is what it is. It wouldn't be the end of the world. It certainly would be way better than just having him as a Voyager. But if they do a transit, I would prefer him to be a commander class. The Shattered Glass reissues, I think they're going to wait to do more faithful ones based on their original designs. Kind of like what he mentioned at the end here, them considering making a new Shattered Glass Goldbug and Starscream off of their new Cybertron molds. I think that's a route they probably want to take with updates or reissues on Shattered Glass stuff, but obviously I don't know for sure, I'm just speculating. But to me at least, that would be the smart thing to do. Next up here for the info, he says, all Devastation figures will be clear free because the windows will be the only thing cell shaded. The 2-pack figures will be clear free. They want to continue making more of the con generics. The tank guy will get a new head and the hammer, but will not be bigger because Evan said it will scale with the Deluxe Prime. I'm really happy to hear that there's not going to be any clear plastic on these Devastation figures. I always advocate for this on at least the cartoon, comic book, video game figures or whatever, to not use clear plastic because it doesn't make any sense. That's not what their designs are based off of. It's not like a live action figure, so hopefully they continue to do this way more and they listen to fan feedback on figures with clear plastic that aren't from a movie. And even with movie figures, they should be clear plastic inserts at least. And the 2-pack figures and them wanting to make more generic cons and army builders, I'm all for that. I definitely do feel like they gotta tap into army builders even more than they already have the last couple of years. Yes, we got the Decepticon Soldier from the video game. We got the Auto Troopers. We have Seekers, the Sweeps. But there's so many more that they could do that I frankly would really love to see, especially from Unicron Trilogy. They got to do the Autobot Trooper from the video games. There's a bunch of army builders from the Transformers movie video games that they still have to do. So I'm really excited to see where the future could go with those army builder 2-packs for Transformers. And this is where it starts to get pretty crazy. So he says here, a Metroplex reissue will happen, but it might take some more time than others because he will be remolded to be given modern articulation like ankle tilts. Super Megatron might happen one day. Oh my goodness. So what they're trying to do here, it seems like they're just going to straight up reissue the Thrilling 30 Metroplex from, 12 years ago now, but update it to have modern articulation. That is crazy. I did not expect to hear that from Evan. I just assumed that if they did do a new Metroplex, he would either be a HasLab release or he would be an all-new $200 Titan class release. I am super surprised by this. I'd assume he would be a specialty release at a different price because the Metroplex we already have is definitely above the $200 price point that we have nowadays for Titan class because, it's 12 years ago and it has electronics. It's a little bit bigger than Titan class figures we usually get nowadays. It has a little bit more going on with it in terms of features and the minifigure. I feel like if that Metroplex was released nowadays with everything that came with the original figure, along with updated articulation or whatever engineering that they want to remold on the figure to be up to snuff with modern times, I definitely do feel like he would probably be around 250. And that makes me think that maybe he's going to be like a made-to-order release, or maybe even a HasLab at some point. But I don't know, with the way it's worded here, they probably just want to reissue him, but just update him more to be modern with articulation and whatever else they want to do with him, which I'm all for. I still think that METROPLEX mold is pretty fantastic. It just needs a little bit more articulation to pose better, and obviously for stability and everything. So this is a good idea. I'm actually for this if they do remold it to have some extra stuff that you see on modern figures. Now, in terms of the Super Megatron, I really do feel like he needs to be a Commander class release at some point soon, especially since they just did Star Convoy as a Titan class. It would only be right that they would do Super Megatron not as a leader class or a crappy Titans Return Galvatron retool, but as a brand new mold Commander class. I definitely do feel like that design deserves it, and that's probably one of the best Megatron designs we've gotten from, I guess you could say, the G1 continuity, or you know, just G1 adjacent looking Megatron designs. I definitely do feel like that's one of the best we've gotten in the Transformers franchise. I mean, just look at it. It is so badass and menacing. All the different features and weaponry are really nice on that design. And they even did a good job on that figure a few years ago from the, 2020 release. But they just have to update it to be a little bit more in line with some Megatron figures we've gotten since then, make it so it's not a crappy retool of Titans Return Galvatron, and I feel like that would be a really good release for the $90 price point, definitely. And TFP goes on to say here, on Friday I asked him if Death Cobra's copter back could fold in, and he said yeah, and I asked if Hellbat can become a shoulder gun, and he didn't have any plans for that on Friday, but I guess his mind changed on Saturday. So interesting, a little bit more of some feature info there for Lyle Kaiser, which is pretty cool. I didn't really expect that to be the case, but that is a nice little feature for this guy to have, especially for the HasLab price point of $300. And after he posted those stories, we were talking for a little bit, and TFP also gave me a bit more info on what Evan was saying at MegaCon. So he says here, a Siege Skywarp reissue is planned. Wow, okay, so they're definitely listening to the fans. I definitely do feel like a Skytread reissue is going to be happening at some point in probably the next year or two, I'd assume. With Siege Skywarp here, that is a figure that's basically impossible to find, goes for stupid money on the aftermarket, and even when it first came out, it really wasn't easy to find, if I remember correctly. So the fact that this is probably getting a reissue at some point soon is great, and I'm glad Hasbro's listening to the fans, and they're kind of jumping the gun and getting in on these aftermarket figures that are going for crazy money that collectors really want, because it seems like a no-brainer for Hasbro to just straight up reissue these figures and these characters that people really want, and there's a high demand for, because it just makes sense. Hasbro made these figures, and why not make a chance for people to get them for retail and make a bunch of money off of your figure due to the aftermarket hype that's built up the last few years. So it just makes sense from an everything standpoint, basically, to just reissue these hard-to-find figures, and I'm glad this is continuing here with Siege Skywarp at some point soon. And TFP also texted me a little bit more info on the chat with Evan, what he said. He says here, he told me for the Hearts of Steel stuff that they'll make more if they sell well. Also, maybe they'll make a toy color Devastator in 2026 or 2027. They just said they want to make people wait a bit. So all of this makes sense. The Hearts of Steel stuff, I really do hope it sells well this year so we could get more from that Timelines subline. I dropped a video talking about some really interesting info on this new Timelines subline at Hasbro Pulse that's coming out this year with the Hearts of Steel stuff. So if you want to go check out yesterday's video, it is on the channel. And the Devastator thing, I definitely do feel like it makes sense for them to do a toy colors repaint. They did it with Menasor. They're probably going to do it with Superion at some point as well. Probably going to do it in that retro packaging like what they did with Menasor a couple years back. And it does make sense for them to wait a bit, because I remember for the Menasor thing, it was a bit of a weird situation with that. And probably from a business standpoint as well, they want to drum up a bit more hype in terms of that release. Maybe make it where that Devastator is a bit more hard to find after a little while, and they come out with the toy colors reissue, and that sells like hotcakes, probably more than it would be if they just released it not too long after dropping this 86 release like what they did with Menasor. So I guess that makes sense from a business standpoint. That concludes it for all the info that TF Prime got out of Evan at MegaCon. It was really nice of Evan to discuss all these things with him and the fans and everything. Hopefully all this stuff goes according to plan, as what Evan was talking about here, because a lot of this seems like great ideas to me. And it just seems like, despite some issues with Hasbro figures every year that we obviously have, they are listening to fans and they're trying to improve it the best that they can from the standpoint of being a worker at Hasbro, because, you know, they got to answer to these big wigs that make, frankly, dumb decisions, it seems like, half the time. So it really does seem like guys like Evan, Mark, and whoever else are on the Transformers team, and not even just for Transformers, other franchises as well, are really trying to listen in on the fans, especially the last few years, which has been really great. But yeah, guys, let me know down in the comments below, which of these pieces of info are you hyped for the most? All my social medias are linked down below, including my email if you guys want to hit me up about business inquiries, if you want to message me about whatever, or if you want to commission a diorama from me, because I make dioramas for people for their stop motions, photography, or irregular display shelves in your homes. You can either hit me up on any of my social media accounts, or you could just email me and we can work out a deal. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching this video. Catch y'all in the next one. Bye!